Hey there, Drawyah here, and welcome to this video where we shall be taking a look at the 747 by Salty Simulations. So the Salty 747 is a community-built 74 similar to the fly-by-wire A320nx or, for example, the Zibo 737 for X-Plane, and this includes all new features and systems upgrades for the default 747, including updated ICAS displays, updated overhead panel, and more functions and system that are more similar to that of the real aircraft. So in this video we're taking a closer look at this aircraft, see what new systems have been added, and see what does the Salty 747 add to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Downloading the Salty 747 is nice and simple and only requires 3 steps. So firstly, you want to come to the Salty 747 GitHub page and head down to code and download the zip file. A pop-up will appear, you can either open it or save it, click OK, and just like that, the files will now download to your local drive. What you now want to do is head over to your Microsoft Flight Simulator installation location. So in my case, it's in C Games Microsoft Flight Simulator, but depending on if you've used the default locations or not, the default location will be different on the Steam Edition and Microsoft Store Edition of Microsoft Flight Simulator. What you're going to do is head into your community folder and then drag and drop the Salty 747 master file into this folder. It should take less than a second, and just like that, your Salty 747 has now been installed. Salty Simulations also have a Discord server, a link of which is in the description, where you can keep up to date with updates to the 747 project, as well as chat to the developers behind it as well, and see what new features are also on the way. So, while worth checking out, feel free to join the community and see what they have on offer as well. So here we are now inside the Salty 747, sitting at a stand in Los Angeles LAX. Let's run through a startup procedure and see what features have now been added to the aeroplane. First things first, we'll activate the panel, and we'll turn on the battery. So standby power to automatic, flap open, battery on, flap close. We'll also turn the external powers, bring systems to life, and head back to the main view. The first thing you notice is that the primary flight display and the navigation displays, the PFD and the NDs, are all currently inactive and blank. So what you need to do is turn on and align the IRS. This can be found on the overhead panel at the very rear to the left. Flick all these switches twice into the nav position, and now starts the alignment process. So the IRS is the aircraft's GPS positioning system, and so what it will do is it will pinpoint your aircraft's location based on GPS and the FMS information, and it will use that to then calculate where the aircraft is, and if it can find a match, then display that information onto the displays for you. And the further away from the equator you are, the longer it takes. So as you can see right now, it'll take about 6 minutes to align. It's not too bad, not too long. And say, for example, if we're in Rovaniemi in Finland, it'll take maybe like 9 or 10 minutes. So the further north or south you are, the longer it will take to align. While that takes its time, we'll now have a look at the next upgrade feature, which is the ICAS displays. So first things first, we'll have a look at the doors page, and we can now see, for example, that the entry 1 and the forward cargo doors are both open. This wasn't there before. This is all new for the Salty 747, and we can also confirm that by looking outside. So the luggage truck, for example, is now just pulling back, door will close in a second. Once that does, you'll then notice that the door will then appear as shut. There we go. And then the entry 1 will stay open for now, as currently we have a jet bridge in place and therefore passenger door in the aircraft. So this will be updated dynamically based on what the aircraft's doors are currently doing. And like I said, it's a new feature for the Salty 747, and it's part of the new ICAS systems that will appear on screen. The other one is the flight controls page. And so we'll play with this more when the aircraft has pushed back from the gates, but as you can see, if I move the yoke around, it will manipulate the aircraft's flight surfaces, and it will be shown on the displays. We'll take it back into electrics mode, and let's head down to the FMS and start programming that. Position initialization, and plug in our departure airport, which is Los Angeles LAX, which is Kilo Lima Alpha X-Ray. We'll then take that position, so copy it by pressing the buttons to the right of that number, and paste it into the IRS position. So like I said earlier, it'll take the information from the FMS as the GPS, and if you can find a match or find it within a very small distance from one another, it will then align the two and then display that information on the panels in front of you. So you can copy either the airport's position or the GPS position and paste it into the IRIS position. Next we'll head to the routes page and start plugging all of this in. So once again, departure airport is Kilo Lima Alpha X-Ray, and for the purposes of this tutorial we'll say New York JFK, so Kilo Juliet Foxtrot Kilo. Plug it in. Flight number, if you have one, plug it in there. Company route, if you have one, plug it in there. I'm going to head to the next page and start plugging our waypoints, starting off with Tusti. Tango Uniform Sierra Tango India, plug it in. Next we fly to Nickel. May take a few seconds for the FMS to update. There you go. So after Tusti, fly to Nickel. Following that, we fly to Pila. After that, it's Avery. To adjust position slightly to get the Y. Sometimes I prefer filling in flight plans from the right and then FMS, since you don't have a spoilers lever in the way, but if you can manage it from the captain's side, you can manage it from the captain's side. After Avery, we fly to Lancy. So there you go, another one we have to move away to get the Y key from behind. And you'll now notice that we have run out of space on the first page. So what we're going to do is head down to next page, click on that, and continue on the flight planning phase. So after Lancy, we fly to Juso. Plug it in, and then fly to Hoxol. And then it's Sags. Before we fly to Twain. And then once again we're out of space, so hit the next page button. We'll then fly to LA. Quam. McMahon. And finally, Valo. And so, like I say, if you're flying to a different airport, of course your flight panel would be different, but for the purpose of the tutorial, we'll do a LAX to JFK flight and plug this in all through that. Once you're happy, activate the flight plan and execute it. You can now go to the next page and see that everything has been filled in. The IRIS, I believe, is still aligning, so there you go, another minute to go, so we can't check the routing just yet, and therefore in this time we'll head over to the initial reference page and program our performance. Our cruising altitude we shall set to flights level 370, so 370, plug it in there. Now cost index and reserves I believe are both still non-functional, but will be features that will eventually make their way into the aircraft, so there you go. Cost index we can't plug in, and reserves, if you're carrying another 11 tons of fuel, then plug in 11, plug it in there, and it should fill in. Non-functional yet, but I'm sure that in the very near future, so you'll be able to figure out how this all works, and then allow you to activate that to the aircraft. Head over to thrust limitation, you can leave that, head to takeoff, and plug in the takeoff info, so using 10 degrees of flaps. And we can now see our rotate speed will be 153 knots. So the V-speeds are now correctly calculated based on the aircraft's weights, flaps, and fuel setting. And so rather than before where it was like 220 knots rotate speed, it's now a much more sensible 153, which is much closer to the real-life 747's takeoff speeds. So, the IRS should now be seconds away from lining. There you go, 0 minutes to go. And as soon as that's set, we can now use the plan page to check our flight plan, make sure we're happy with it, and then prepare the aircraft for push and start. There we go. So, switch to plan mode, zoom out on the range, and as you can see the magenta line has now appeared if you use the legs page, you can go step by step to each waypoint and see how it all goes as the flight progresses. There you go, there's our approach into New York. So I'm happy with that flight plan. I can confirm that. We've already activated, which is fine. Head back to map mode and zoom back in towards the airports. We can also now set our departure, which will be given to you via the ATC or the Simbury flight plan, which in this case will be via runway 07 left on the Tusti to departure. So set our departure and arrival index, set the departure 07 lefts via Tusti 2, next page, there it is. Plug it in, execute that, and actually on the next page it will add the user waypoint and the buddy points in this case, which has been added to the departure routing. And then from Tusti, continues on as normal. And waypoint wise, you can also see has added a small extra bit of routing, and no longer fly directly to Tusti, now got the waypoints in between. So far so good. I'm happy with the aircraft setup. I'm now ready to start the push back in a couple of moments. And that's on the APU, so switch on, switch to start, hold it for a few seconds, and then release. Or the APU starting, we'll set up the lights as well. So we will turn on the navigation lights, and that's for now. We know heat will turn on. Anti-icing we won't turn on until the aircraft is airborne, and passenger temperatures we can also set, so we'll flip those to automatic. And this is another switch that has been added to the recent update Salty. So before these were all in up, but now you've got full control over the aircraft's temperature, and therefore you can either be a really harsh pilot and leave someone cold, you can quite nice pilots and turn it all up to warm. So it's down to you. You can decide how you act, or stick it in automatic and let the aircraft do it for you. AP generator is now available, so we'll turn these two switches on. The external power switch will now turn off automatically. And at this point, we'll do a quick final check of the systems, make sure that we're happy with everything as they are. So, systems are aligned, aircraft is active, FMS is set up, autopilot will set our cruise to 37,000. And we'll also set our vertical speed of 2,500 feet per minute. And our speed of 250 knots. So eventually, once the VNAV systems are fully functional with Microsoft Flight, you can avoid setting the speeds and altitudes manually. But for now, that's how you have to do things. Flight is active. That's all good. We'll now turn on the beacon lights. So if it's switched down to showcase both lights. What this will now do is let ground crews that the aircraft is ready for engine startup, and therefore they'll clear the area, clear any cones, clear any vehicles in the way, and start moving the pushback tug into position, which in this case you can use Shift P to activate. If we peer over the front now, you'll be able to see the pushback tug drive into place. If not, perhaps we're a bit too high. Somewhere down there. There we go. Jet bridge now cleared the area. We can use the doors page again to confirm that all doors are secure. There we go. Everything's now locked. All looks good. Back to the fuel page. Make sure that we can now look at the systems in regards to fuel. So as it stands, you can see there's no fuel flowing, aircraft's all locked off, nothing going on. Once you start up the engines, everything starts to come to life. We can now see there's pressure being applied to the nose wheel, so we'll release the parking brake. And we'll now start up the engines, starting off with 4. So fuel pump's active, engine 4 starts. We're now going to watch the N1. And as soon as that hits 0.4, now starts the fuel flow into engine 4. So in the 747, the engine startup sequence is 4, 1, 3, 2. Outer left, outer right, alpha left, alpha right, outer right, outer left, inner right, inner left. During the pushback, we'll also request the aircraft to turn. In this case, we'll turn the nose left, therefore, turn the nose right, so request steer left. And as soon as that switch clicks in, we can now start up engine 1, so fuel flow starts, engine 1 starts, watch the N1 to hit 0.4, flick the switch, this point we'll end the pushback, set the parking brakes again. Now with 747, the startup sequence does take a little bit longer than other aircraft, but you do need to appreciate the fact that you are starting 4 engines rather than 2, and therefore you are taking a bit of longer time to prepare everything from the get-go. So wait for the switch to flip back into position. There we go. Start up engine 3. Make sure we have the fuel which is on before. Fuel flow starts. And in a second, we can do the second and final engine. There we go. Fuel pumps active. Engine 2 starter active. Watch the N1. Engine 2 fuel flow starts. As you can now see, fuel is flowing between all 4 fuel tanks and all 4 engines. And then slowly, everything will come to life, everything will activate. So there we go, 4 engines are getting fuel. No brakes, no issues in the system, everything's burning normally. We'll load flaps down to 10 degrees as we set in the FMS. And we head over to the flight control page to make sure that systems-wise, aircraft is responding correctly. So check the elevators first. Elevators are active. Check the ailerons. We have 4 lefts and 4 rights. And the rudder, kick to the left, kick to the right. And so I'm now happy to accept that we have got full control of the aircraft, everything's running correctly, and that's everything is ready to go. We'll then return back to the fuel page. We'll release the parking brake, turn on the taxi lights. And as soon as you have taxi instructions from ATC, now clear to go. Likewise, worth turning on the rest of the fuel pumps now if you've got fuel left. Turn off the APU generators, turn off the APU, increase throttle, and off you go. And there we have it, a quick overview of the solid simulations Boeing 747. It's still in early days, still in early production, so there's a lot of features that are still yet to be implemented, but if you take a look at their Discord channel, which like I say a link is in the description for, you can keep up to date with what progress they've made, what they're currently doing, and other feature developments as well that their team may introduce as well. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do leave a like if you did, do subscribe as well if you haven't done so already, and do consider sharing it as well. I know a lot of people have asked about an upgrade to 747 within Microsoft Flight Simulator, and as it stands, this looks like the project that could take it that way. Fly-by-wire did fantastic with the A320nX, you've got the 787XC from Hangar 9, and so, you never know, solid simulation 747, this could be the one. So, like I say, do consider sharing it, otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you again in a video very soon. Take care, and goodbye.